Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here to do a very late Shokugeki no Soma chapter 276 impressions video, late impression video. If you are here to watch it, thanks for tuning in. This chapter, I initially made another audio file for this, but I think I'm just going to do it over because I'm not sure how I felt about it, so we're just going to do it again. So for you guys, it's the first time. Me, it's the second time. Just giving you that little background. Alright, so overall, chapter 276, there's about, I think, 2 or 3 general things that I think are worth talking about, and then one thing that is more based on the exact art that we saw in the chapter, which I guess is more open to your guys' interpretation. It's one of those things where it could either be a coincidence, or it could be nothing, or it could be some kind of weird message that the author is trying to give us. So that's going to be towards the end of the video. But before we get into that, we have a lot of things going on in the chapter when it comes to the shipping aspect of things. And you know me, I just love that. I'm going to just jump on over that. Not going to lie, this chapter was pretty much made for me when I see like Irina and Megumi having a sleepover and they're doing all the little girl gossip, and it's just like, yeah, nice. One thing I did not like about that whole sequence though was that the minor characters didn't get to tell anything about what they like. Look man, shipping is cool and all, but I want everyone to have a fun life, and it's just really tough when this kind of stuff happens. Anyway, this chapter was pretty much just slice of life. If there's one thing that I find really strange in it at all, I guess talking about the first thing is just how people have accepted Suzuki. You know, it's very interesting. This is a chapter where we have Soma saying that, hey, this knife, it might have been, I think the exact word that he used in the manga stream translation was, it was his dad's and then it cut off there when he stopped it. Because he kind of convinces himself that no, that there's no way that can be what it is. It's just funny, right? Like, we started this off with Soma saying like, yeah, Asahi might try and get into the school posing as a teacher, and now we've gone into this whole other little side quest pretty much over here about trying to beat Asahi. And I like how they've just kind of dropped the whole midnight chefs thing. Like, this is still a big problem, right? Even if Suzuki by some chance isn't Saiba Asahi, this is like, we should still be relatively suspicious of him. At least Soma should, right? Like, I don't know. If I found out about midnight chefs in the area that are trying to get into Japan, I'd be kind of more on it, or at least I'd be more suspicious of this guy that suddenly showed up. Especially Soma when he has reasonable doubt of something weird going on. But that's the first thing. Just the way that this situation has kind of devolved into Soma just going after the guy that beat him in a cooking fight. So pretty interesting stuff there. Another thing was just, one thing that was really interesting in the comments for the chapter were just people talking about, hey, Suzuki might be a really creepy pedo, and it's like, yeah, pretty much. Although for the pedo thing, like, honestly, I don't know. I've seen so much stuff coming out of the Japanese media. I don't really care too much about that. That doesn't really take away that he is actually really creepy. Like, when you think about it, he's the kind of guy that's going at it relentlessly. He's the kind of guy that's going after this girl. He takes no for an answer. He talks her into it. If he is Saiba Asahi, this guy works in underground circles. Of course he has a silver tongue. Of course he's a smooth talker. Irina's being played for a chump, and this is where it reminds you of the dangers of an adult messing with a child. In this chapter we find out, yeah, Irina's probably not ready for any kind of like hardcore social kind of thing in her life, or hardcore love in her life. She's still a child. If Asahi was here specifically to go after the fact that she's a child, it would be a bigger problem. But I think Asahi, because he is a character in a story, I think he's being written as someone who cares more about the idea that Irina represents rather than what Irina actually is. Whether that be things based on her age or her gender, he cares more about the idea of her. So it's I think he's the kind of character that if Irina was a child, like say 8 or 9, I think he would still be going after her. I think logic would not stop him. I think he'd be one of those people that goes up to her parents. Man, if Azami was still in power, he'd go up to Azami. He'd tell him, hey, I want to marry your daughter. And Azami would be like, whoa, you worked under Joichiro? Oh, yeah, man, totally. Or do you believe in what I'm doing? Yeah. And then they're like, okay, cool, marriage contract, signed up, right? It'd be an arranged marriage. That's the kind of mentality that I see in Asahi. And that's the kind of mentality I would see an author writing for Asahi. And then there's like the other things, like the guy, one of the things, I haven't seen his age yet, but I saw someone saying that it might be 20, and I'm not sure if that's like the actual thing, but if Asahi's within 3 years of Irina, you know, you give Irina 1 more year and like everyone suddenly drops the pretense or they get less creeped out about it. It's kind of weird, but it's honestly one of those situations, when it comes to like those kind of comments, it's one of those situations where I just say like, it's not the most disgusting thing that we've seen in Japanese media. That I'm okay, like just say, oh, okay, whatever. I'm not sure why I'm taking so long with that one. It's just like, it's always funny when you go into the comments and you see people talking about ages of consent in Japan, and then other people correcting them like, hey, no, and then other people getting really accurate with the definition of what it means to like children, what it means to like teenagers. But again, I think ages don't really matter here. I think this is more a pursuit of ideals than it is a pursuit of some kind of weird kink that Saiba Asahi or potentially Suzuki might not be him. I have to keep saying that little like thing right there. But going into like one of the big dangers of adults going after children is that one of the bigger dangers is that it all comes back to developmental psychology, right? In general, children do not have developed mental faculties, and when you get into a situation where you're taking advantage of someone with diminished mental faculties, things can get kind of messy. You could really end up screwing the kid over for life. For teenagers, it's a little bit different. Teenagers have overactive emotional centers in their brain. They are feeling emotions much more hard than other people in other ages are, generally. We have to say generally because brains in general are very different, and there's only so many patterns that apply to a group of brains. Anyway, with teenagers, emotions are running high. When a teenager says that it feels like their heart is breaking into pieces, they might be feeling an emotional equivalent that you as an adult might not be feeling. When it comes to teenagers though, getting involved in weird romances or getting involved in emotionally charged situations might be a bit worse for them, and that might lead them to making bad judgment calls. So it's pretty much, we all know, we've all been there, where emotions take the wheel. It's much more common to happen with a general teenager. We do not want that kind of thing to happen with Irina. Irina doesn't seem like she has much emotional maturity in terms of romantic situations, so this would be one of those cases where it does look like Suzuki is taking advantage with her, since he has more experience of the world, since he is more experienced, again, assuming he is Saiba Asahi, he is more experienced with the world, well, even in age. And he has more real life experience talking to people in relatively high stress situations. So this is a bit of a power play, and it comes to a head in that little bit of a conversation that Irina has with the girls, just how she mentions that, yeah, Suzuki, somehow he just gets me to talk to him, and I don't know what to do. Irina's being played for a fiddle, or being played like a fiddle, and it's kind of unfortunate to watch. But you know, how this arc is going to turn out now, I really don't know. I don't know where we're going with this. Is it going to turn into the Save Irina from this horrible person arc? Or is it going to turn into Irina says yes to this marriage proposal kind of thing that Suzuki wants to do? She says yes, and then we get Soma breaking in their Final Fantasy X style to like tell people like, hey, no, she's mine. And you know, I'm not gonna lie, that kind of relationship drama, I think we need it in this generation of shonen manga. Like, I don't think I've seen that scene. Like, the most epic marriage proposal breakup or marriage breakup I've seen in like just Japanese stuff was in Final Fantasy X. That was like a whole bunch of generations ago, man. I need a new shining example of proposal being interrupted. Or weddings being interrupted. Sorry, I keep saying proposal, but it should be wedding. Although I guess, actually, I'm aware, Yuna of the Hot Springs, I think, would have it, but harems don't count. I need to see it in one of the action ones, one of the serious ones. Well, Soma's a serious one. You guys get what I mean. I need to see it in Soma. I think that would be hilarious. Soma breaks into the cathedral, be like, no, you are having a cooking battle with me right now, and I'm going to stop you. One thing though, that Soma was saying, someone was saying in this one, oh dang it, I'm gonna have to pause the video, I can't remember what I was gonna say. Oh right, Soma came to the conclusion that he needs to get Erina to say that his cooking is good. So we're going back to the original motive in Soma's pursuit. So I think that's alright. I think that's fine. Good. Let's do that. Let's do that. That said, at the end of the chapter we get information about the next calling event, the first half exam or something like that. You know, they're going to a beach. Yeah, gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a bunch of Shokugekis again, which, you know, unfortunately, the Shokugeki sometimes aren't that interesting to talk about because I can't talk about food that often. So we'll have to see how that goes. The final thing now, we're going to go into this little bit regarding panel composition. Now we're significantly into the video such that it's most likely no one's watching this video anymore, at least no one that can copyright strike the channel. So let's just look at this part. One thing I found really interesting was that when the girls, well, when Erina thought about Soma and she was like, she would look like she was in doubt, and Suzuki kind of picked up on that. We had this shot of her right here. What's interesting is that we had a similar shot earlier, or sorry, later, and it came from Megumi when she was listening to what Erina was describing as her ideal person. And we see another one of Soma's back. What's interesting here though is just the composition of the shots, because they're pretty much the same shot. They're both thinking about Soma in a particular pose, but it's hard. You know, I do want to think, because the author, how do I want to say this? You have these two very similar shots, and it just makes me want to kind of analyze what are the differences in the way that Erina and Megumi see Soma, and does that mean anything big in the future? Like, Megumi sees Soma in his Yukihira attire, so we can assume she sees Soma in his roots, while Erina has the mental picture of Soma in current time. And then you also have the backdrops, one's darker, one's white, and I'm just wondering, you know, is there some kind of extra meaning that the author tried to put in there, or is this just a coincidence of how things worked out? It's just very funny that across these two girls' image of Soma, we have these little differences in how things look. When you look at other little things here too, the Soma in Megumi looks a little bit more distant, the Soma in Erina looks a little bit more close, but the Soma in Erina is representative of his Totsuki lifestyle, while the Soma in Megumi's image is representative of the Yukihira lifestyle. So it's just an interesting little comparison that we had within the same chapter. And I'm really interested in just, is it indicative of how the girls see Soma? But the thing is, I just don't have enough information. Well, no, Erina gave us so much information in this chapter, but honestly, the poor girl is just blindsided by Suzuki's behavior. But I just don't have enough information to be able to ascertain how the girls see Soma and whether or not it would fit with these little these little images that they have of him in his mind. So anyway guys, that's pretty much it for me. Overall, I like the scandal in the chapter. I think it's funny that we're talking about how creepy Suzuki is, because yeah, that's gonna happen. I think it's interesting the discussions people are having about ages of consent on like the manga forums. I think that's hilarious. But I guess if we want to be mature and talk about it, like, feel free to talk about it here if you want. But I am more interested to know, how are you guys feeling about this? How do you feel about Suzuki's dogged attempts of just going after Erina? How do you feel about Erina's flip-flop? Or not flip-flopping, but she's just kind of floundering around. You know, let me know what you think down below. And till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day. And suffice to say, I don't think Erina should be anywhere near this guy. I mean, he's an illegal chef, for Pete's sake. Come on, let's get back to that plot.